lads, I am back again. Tell your friends. This is the first battle report for my latest Teams event, another online one. I did do so I did reports for the previous one, and I'm with basically the same team, but it's now 8-man teams, so we've added a few more people. I'm taking basically my same Beast Herds list that you've seen quite a bit of. Main difference is one of the Beast Giants is now a Jabberwock, and I've managed to fit in Dark Rain at the expense of Hunting Call on my Beast Lord, so I can't reroll ambush and I can't ambush from turn 1, but I think that's a fair trade because I thought Dark Rain is actually quite important for the list. Round 1, I was paired up in a matchup that I thought was fairly favourable. The objective was scoring units. So there was a lot about this Dwarven list that I didn't think that I could maybe go into. But I figured I could quite easily really get one of those scoring units, probably one of the rangers, with my monsters, and then probably just avoid, Wildhorns, stay away, and avoid anything getting in to kill the mongrels pretty much just fine. So I figured probably fairly even on points, I wouldn't commit too much. And then I'd take one of his scoring units and keep my own safe. And looking at basically a 13-7, I thought was fairly doable, basically. In terms of what he brought, he had a King on Throne with a D3 wound, great weapon. He had a BSB on Shield Bearers. He had 4 great weapon wielding Thanes, and he had a Runic Smith with three battle runes. All of those guys went into the Clan Warriors with Spear and Shield, who vanguarded, and that would put 400, 600, probably close to 1,000, 1,700, like 2,300-ish points into those Clan Warriors. And it was going to be a pretty tough wall to crack with the character wall and a hold stone with shield wall. It was always going to be a pretty tough unit for me to do anything about. Like, one-on-one, I kind of don't mind my Chariot Star against it, but I think probably what is quite likely to happen is I lose on combat res eventually in a turn when he gets good in his saves, or I get a little bit unfortunate on my attacks, or he gets a little bit lucky with his attacks. Because, also I'd be needing to keep the Soothsayer, the Shaman, in contact with his king and make his king not able to attack anyone else. So there'd be a few things basically going on. Which I could probably do if I positioned it right and got the charge. I could declare a challenge with the Shamanism guy, and then his king would have to accept, because otherwise he wouldn't strike, and in which case they get stuck there. But eventually he's going to sneak wounds through. He does do the D3 wounds, so he actually probably kills me quicker, because I would have a really hard time doing wounds to him. But anyway, basically it was going to be a hard unit to beat, pretty much. Other than that, he's got a big unit of Clan Warriors with great weapons, 2 max units of rangers with crossbows, 2 grudge thrusters, and 2 ballistas. Using the handy labeling tool that New UB has, this is after Vanguards, alright? So I won the roll for sides, and I picked the top with the big center. I didn't think the sides were hugely important, but sort of made it a bit more difficult for him with the one of his big sides having the impassable annoyingly in the way. But then my opponent let me drop first because he wanted to see where my things would be before he dropped. This was, by the way, he hadn't been playing. I think he hadn't played since the last event that he played in, and I don't think he played in the He might have played in the previous event. I'm not sure. But basically, he hadn't played much in a while. He hadn't tried this list specifically at all before this game, I'm pretty sure. So that's, I think, why he wanted to be like, even if he had more experience, he'd probably go like, all right, I know what I want to do. I know roughly what I'm afraid of I'm going to deploy so that I get first turn. But I think it's quite reasonable when you're not as comfortable to be sitting there and go, okay, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm going to let you deploy first. I'm going to give up that advantage, but counter deploying is probably more important because I don't want to make the mistake of getting in a bad situation, pretty much. So pretty much, if I got... Yes. So this is after my turn 1 movement. I got off a Chilling Howl to help with his shooting, basically. One of my Gargoyles is there, ready to basically kill one of the Bolt Throwers. He had his Rangers up in this top left corner, who I just went, I'm going to send 2 monsters, I'm going to kill you. And that's the scoring objective, basically, well in hand. Because if I can kill them, which I'm pretty confident having a Giant and a Jabberwock staring down at them, I'm going to, these guys are just going to start marching off, and I'm faster than he is. So, 1 turn of chaff, they leave, and he won't be able to catch me, basically, for most of the game. Because theoretically I'll also then be moving around and threatening from flanks and stuff, and he won't be able to just go 9 inches every turn. Yeah, that was basically it. Unfortunately, this is after his move, like his turn. His unit of 20 Rangers here, who don't even have 20 of them shooting, they have 14 of them shooting. And I have Dark Rain. They did 6 wounds to my Giant. And then the other Rangers down the bottom just finished him off. Which wasn't what I planned or what I wanted. And it put a real damper in that idea that I would just take that unit off, win objective, and walk away. So the game was becoming a little bit more difficult. However, what he did do, he did a bit of faffing around with this block in the middle. And pretty much the position it ended up in had my characters in the front and both Gortax in the flank. Talking to him after the game, he reckoned that one of the Gortax was in the front, which is a weird thing to bring up after the game, I think. But I don't normally make mistakes like that, so I would be very surprised if I had done that incorrectly. But the way we played it, at least, it was in the front. It was in the flank, sorry. So I charged both of them in. This Gortak needed like a 4. The other one, I think, needed a 10, but did have a reroll. And so I just said, you know what, I'll charge both the Gortaks in, and I'll charge the characters in the front. One thing that is quite important, if you look at how I deployed, my Beast Lord was on the right, then he deployed with his King on the right. When I moved them, I moved it so that my Shamanism Soothsayer was on the right, which meant that if I did charge this block, I could do, as I said when I was looking at the lists, where make it so that the King can only attack the Shamanism guy, basically. And then, yeah, it was pretty important as well that I got the flank in, because that meant that he wouldn't be able to reform, so I'd be able to keep that happening all the time without even forcing my... If he didn't declare a challenge, I don't think he did. No, because he's putting other attacks at him as well. So, yeah, I don't think he ever declared a challenge. And basically... Because basically what that would have done is it would have lost him some of his Thanes attacking at my Soothsayer. But also my Soothsayer could attack the easier targets rather than struggling to wound his King. Yeah, so I charged him. I got in, and then I had a good magic phase. So I got off the Hereditary, which is going to be -2 to his leadership, which is pretty good. So it would have been -1 just with Fear, but with the Hereditary it's -2, which going down to leadership 8 is pretty good. Got off +1 strength on the Chariots. Because I think I had like a good card. I had the 5/9, yeah. So I had enough of a dice advantage where, I could spend 2 on that Hereditary, and effectively I was going to get through 2 spells no matter what he did if I rolled, not terribly. Oh, one thing I did miss up the top. So Snakes and Roundabout... Swings and Roundabouts? Yeah, I'm getting confused with Snakes and Ladders. Swings and Roundabouts with the luck over on that top left corner, because when my Jabberwock charged the Rangers, they just failed their Discipline 9 check and ran off. So I was like, well, it cost me a Giant to get them, which is not really what I planned for, but Yeah, okay. I'll take it. I'm still happy that, managed to deal with them. So, plan is still in motion, basically. Um, that's probably a fight that would have gone my way anyway. Is there lightning outside? It's a real rainy time in Sydney. My living room is just flashing a lot. I assumed it was lightning. Anyway, I think I would have won that fight anyway, because, the Jabberwock is toughness 5, so he'd win me on 6s. I do have a Thunder Stomp. I do have a Breath Weapon in the first round of combat. He does have Fear and a -1 Leadership Aura, so Steadfast Test would be on Leadership 7, Fear Checks on Leadership 7. I think that would have ended up in my favour anyway, but the failed discipline test made it simple. In terms of this combat, I don't know how many screenshots I have, so I'm just going to pause for a sec. Yep, okay. So basically, I've got one more screenshot after this. So I'll explain a little bit, but the next one's probably the better one. Basically, first round of combat, I won. I've got impact hits. I rolled like a 1 and a 2 for my chariots, but, whatever. Impact hits stomps. Like, I didn't think there was much of a way that I was going to lose this combat. Mainly because of the Gore-Tax in the flank. So, where are we? Whoa, what's happening? Oh, what's happened? Okay. I don't know what I did there. It looked weird for me for a second. So, essentially what I did was, this was actually quite silly, but I thought, hey, his king has got a great weapon. If I put all of my Gore-Tax attacks into him, I'm going to kill him. Probably just silly, and I should just focus on the unit, because as it turned out, in the next round of combat, I didn't kill him. Which meant that he had an easier target to strike than against my Soothsayer. But he did charge both of... So my position here is basically... I didn't want him... Like, I had a wounded Gore-Tax that I was like, who's taken 3 wounds, which is the one sort of further down. And I was like, there's a good chance that a Grudge Buster can kill him. 2 Grudge Busters probably kill him. But I think actually the maths is not that bad, because it's like impact hits is like 7, and then wounding on 5s is like, 2 and a bit. So there's actually a decent chance with... impact hits now it's +1, so it's 9. So theoretically it should be 3. So like averages they should kill him, but it's pretty dicey there. But I didn't want to... Like, I thought that he was probably going to die, so I was like, I want you to charge both of them into my Gore-Tax so that my other one is going to live, because he's only taken 1 wound. Would also mean, because I got one of them in the flank, that not both of them could overrun into the other one for the combat going on and on. Yeah, as I said, probably silly. I could have done the same thing in terms of denying him to get there. I actually could have done it so that he could only put 1 on both. Because of it, I could have, if I had the more wounded Gore-Tax further down, I'm pretty sure there was a position where, because of the impassable, he couldn't actually fit both of the Grudge Busters. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I ended up positioning him like this to deny the attacks, as I said. He did charge both Grudge Busters in. He only did 2 wounds to the Gore-Tax. I put all of my attacks into the King, and I didn't kill him. I didn't roll a single 6. I am re-rolling successful to wounds, but I'm wounding him on 3s, so like, it's not that unlikely that I would re-roll and still get a 6, but I didn't get any. Didn't kill him. But him striking back at my Gore-Tax only did like 2 or 3 wounds. So, got a bit lucky there. He's hitting on 3s and wounding on... No, he's hitting on 2s and wounding on 4s with the D3 wounds. So it's like, there's a few things there that can go wrong, but you get a bit unlucky. And then basically, still with all my Thunder Stomps and stuff, I won the round, and he was Leadership 8. I killed his BSB the previous round. So he failed his Leadership 8 and ran, and that's basically when my opponent went, nah, look, we can call it. Which is probably fair, because I broke him in his turn. So I would just pursue him with everything. Theoretically, this Gore-Tax is probably locked in by the Grudge Busters, because at least one of them would hold. Um, but I'd have, Swift Stride again. Well, actually, realistically, we probably should have rolled the... there's a good chance, actually, he's going to go off the board, so it probably doesn't matter in the end. So basically I would have had a Gortak that was ignoring that, so able to countercharge into these Grudge Busters in that combined combat. My Chariots would have been overrunning over here, and I think they just beat and tank everything here. Like, they can charge into the Great Weapons and just go, like, I don't really care about you guys. The Rangers come in the flank, and I go, that's fine. I've got enough output that you're not going to hurt me much, and I'm going to hurt these Great Weapon guys quite a bit. And I also don't have to do that. I'm like, cool, I've got your characters. I'm leaving. It was probably pretty fair that after he broke from that combat, he wanted to call it, because I don't think there was much of the game left, to be honest. Honestly, I'm not sure that doing that charge, where I charge the big block, is actually even the best play here. I think my original plan might have still been fine, given that I trust the Jabberwock to deal with the Rangers. It's just that it didn't really feel very good at the time to be like, all right, well, that means overall from the Rangers I'm going to get nothing in points. There's not going to be much of a game happening as I just run away because I've got a scoring unit. So I pretty much just went, look, let's try it and see what happens. I mean, 2 Gortaks to the flank of anything is never going to be a good time. So I definitely think it's a combat that favoured me pretty significantly. But at the same time, those bloody... Like, those blocks are just so hard to get through. And I was struggling to get through this character wall. Like, I really wasn't doing many moves to these toughness 5 characters with my Chariots. But it all did work out pretty well in the end. I think I just underestimated, particularly with the fact they've got -1 to wound. I think I just underestimated how difficult it could be to wound the guys. That's probably, it was a closer fight than I thought it would be. I still think it's probably pretty significantly in my favour, but it's sort of like I was probably in a good position to win the game a bit small, like a 13-ish, and I took a risk that could lose me the game like 20-0. So maybe not the best play overall, but I think there were a lot of things there that, because even though I got lucky to get a good card and get the magic phase that I did, it would have been pretty hard for my opponent to stop me getting some pretty significant spells there. At least one. And it's just sort of the case of, okay, if I don't cast the Hereditary... So, if we have 2 things here, say I didn't get the Hereditary off, and I got off another Shamanism spell, because I was like, I need Scarification. I don't really need Scarification, because I can go Stone Skin for the same effect on that unit, but I would actually make me better with the other characters, but that's why he was actually concerned about stopping Stone Skin, but got Scarification up, it's all good. So I would focus on making sure that happened. And then, even if I don't get the Hereditary off, it's probably just going to take me longer to beat him, but I don't think that I lose. The only way that I lose is if I did the silly thing that I did, which is thinking that I can kill this king with my Gortaks, when I should have just been focusing on the combat res. So, that was probably a mistake with these Gortaks. That was potentially game losing, basically. And hopefully in future I wouldn't make a mistake like that. But the situation overall, I'm pretty happy with. And in that same situation, I think I'd probably take the charge again and just be like, yeah, this is something that favours me. Even though it is a risk, obviously, when you send your Death Star. He's got 2,400 points or whatever we said it was here. I've got 2,600 if you 2,800 including BSB in general. I've got 2,000 points of characters and 1,000 points of Gortak, so I've got 3,000 points in there in terms of victory points. So this is always something that could go either way, with dice falling one way or the other. But it went my way, and I think I'd happily take that risk again. Yeah, so solid first game. I got a 20-0. And my team won the round 92 to whatever that is, 68. And yeah, so round 2, we actually go into the guys for Team USA. So we're representing Team Texas, baby. And yeah, we're going for the War of Independence against Team USA. It's actually looking really good at the moment. My game is still to play. We've had a 2-week round because WTC was happening in between. And we are up decently. It's been pretty close. Ooh. I might have to go in a second. Where are we? 76 to 64 at the moment. So, if I get 5 points, basically we won the round against Team USA, which will be pretty fun. I'm against ID, and it should be a fun game. So, thanks for listening, guys. I hope this one was good, and I'll catch you on the next one.